Thank you so much for joining me for another global stampin video hop. You're watching Esther from Stampin Star Creations. Today I'm having a go at this magical sliding card. So I'm using an A4 sheet of card and I'm just trimming this down into usable figures. So cutting it down at 8 1/4 on the short side, turning it round and cutting it at 10 1/2 on the long side. I'm going to get the scoreboard out and score it at 1/2 inch and then again at 5 1/4 inches. Turning that 90 degrees, and then we're going to score this again at 2 1/2 inches and 6 inches. So that's 2 1/2 inches all the way down and then 6 inches. Just giving the paper a crease so you get some idea as to how this is going to fold, and then it gives you an idea of where the creases go and how it gets put together. So I'm just grabbing my pencil and I'm going to shade out the areas which we're going to cut off later and that you don't need to worry about. Then from that bottom crease there, we're going to do some cutting from that crease up to the score line in the centre. So I'm just scoring this first to give you a visual. So I'm coming in 1/3 of an inch on both sides of that centre panel, 1/3 of an inch. So it's about 2 7/8 and 5 9/16. So please don't worry too much about those measurements. It's easier just to take 1/3 of an inch from both sides when you actually come to do your card. So because I've drawn these in pencil, I've got a visual as to where to cut them out. So remember, you're cutting from the score line to the score line. You don't want to go beyond that. So you might find this easier to use a blade, or it can be handy to use a trimmer because it does guide you to the point of where exactly to cut it out on either side. So that's going from the middle score line right into that shallow score line at the bottom. I'm just going to use my scissors to trim away the sides, and then hopefully you get more of an idea of what this is going to look like and what needs cutting away. Be sure to hold on to those bits that you're cutting away because you can use these later in your project. I'm then cutting at a slight angle beyond the penciled out mark, and I'm just going to mark again on this side where I'm cutting out to give you an idea. This is just so that when it comes to folding the flap over, it makes it easier to fold and it doesn't catch. So this is what you should be left with, 2 slits on either side with that panel centre in the middle. And then these 2 outer flaps will fold to close the mechanism. I'm going in with the 4-inch rectangle stitched framelit die, and I'm going to place this in the centre of the card and then folding over the flaps in order to be able to run this through my machine. So as you can see, that die cuts out the window shape in the middle. Then I've got a piece of 3 3/8 and 5 1/8, and this is going to act as the piece of card that's going to slip inside with the image on it. Using my stamparatus, I'm lining up the unicorn stamp from the Leave a Little Sparkle stamp set, and then just to get an idea of how it's going to fit in that frame, I'm removing my pink piece of Blushing Bride cardstock, and then I've got my Whisper White cardstock underneath, using the black magenta ink to lay down my image. So it's really handy and probably most important to be able to use a stamping positioning tool like the stamparatus, because you want the image to go into the same place, and I'll show you that later because we're going to stamp later on something else. So adding in some stars and some swirls to add some more detail to my card. I've gone ahead and cut out a matching window sheet, so it's like acetate and it's exactly the same size as that white piece. That's 3 3/8 by 5 1/8. This time using Stays On ink on the plastic because it's a permanent ink. So give that a chance to dry off a bit because the ink will still be a little bit wet. But as you can see, it matches straight on top of the previous design, which is exactly what we want for this card technique. And using the blends, I've gone for some really nice bright rainbow colours. So lovely lipstick, Calypso Coral, Daffodil Delight, Granny Apple Green and Flirty Flamingo. Using both the dark and the light shade to help me blend. So I'm going for a nice rainbow effect on the hair, and I've added some extra colour on the swirls. Then going in with the light smoky slate, I'm just doing a bit of shading on the horse, the unicorn. And at first I thought I would just do a bit of the light grey, but then I decided actually I would like the contrast with the previous image, so I coloured him all in the light smoky slate colour. Then of course we've got to add some Wink of Stella. It's a lovely fine glitter brush pen and it just adds the extra sparkle and magic to the card. So I'm using the darker colours and creating splatters over my image. I'm using the block and just hitting the pen over the block so the splatters hit the page. I have noticed that if you actually use the lid of the pen to flick the pen on and do the splatters that way, sometimes it can damage the brush tip end of your stamping blend, so please be careful doing it that way. As you can see, it leaves a great splatter effect all over the card. I decided I wanted to add even more contrast, and I do like using the smoky slate for a shadow, so even if you get one colour or one set of colours, the grey is a great one to have in your collection. So there you can see just the shadowing along the left side. Going in with the 1-inch circle punch, I'm punching out the matching Blushing Bride cardstock, and I'm just trying to break up the fibres in the card by using my bone folder. You can crease the middle, score the middle and fold it in half if you want to, but for this I just decided to be lazy and do it by hand. So just give it a good burnish. You want a nice crease in the middle. I'm laying down some tear and tape because I want it to be nice and strong on both sides. So making sure your image is flush together and make sure it doesn't move, very carefully just centering that circle on both sides. Using a handheld punch, I'm just trying to punch through those layers, give a little wiggle and make sure they do go through all the layers so that you can feed through your ribbon. I'm using the white crinkle seam binding ribbon and just squashing that through and feeding the ribbon through the loop. Next, I'm just using the pencil to mark out a half inch mark up from the bottom of the white card image. Now that you're just cutting a slit on each side of the white, do not cut through both layers at this point. You're just cutting the white bit. So sorry that I left it to this stage. It's the first time making this kind of card and I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible and talk you through it. So putting your window sheet on the front side, turning it over, and you're just lifting up those flaps on either side and tucking the flaps that you've just made underneath that sliding section. This acts as a stopper when you come to slide your card through. As you can see, it won't go any further. So I felt that my panel needed a white bit of contrast in the middle, so using a 2 11/16 by 4 5/8 piece of white cardstock, or basically just find out what the measurement of that middle bit is and then you can stick your white piece in there. I've gone in with Pool Party and I've already gone and heat embossed some some of the swirls and stars around the border because I wanted a nice border for my unicorn to sit on. Using some strong adhesive, so coming in again with a tear and tape to lay down that sliding mechanism on the front of the card. I don't want to get my fingers all over it, so I'm just using my piercing mat as a flat surface to push that down. It is such a cool effect. Any child would love this, and it's great because you can use any images and colour them in with your Stampin' blends. And you've got room inside the card to do your writing as well. So the mechanism's all on the front, and then you've got a chance to write inside the card. Thank you so much for watching. Please do follow everyone along with this hop and find out what fantastic projects everyone's made using Stampin' blends. Please do subscribe to my channel by clicking the subscribe button, hit the bell, and you get notifications of my uploads. And if you like this video, it's free to give a thumbs up. I'd appreciate if you can do that for me. Take care, have a good day, and don't forget to hop along with the rest of the Stampin' Hop. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye for now.